There's a troubling and disconcerting case about an asylum seeker called Hakan Barach, a Turkish national who arrived in the UK by a small boat in 2023 seeking asylum. And what followed was not the quiet integration into a democratic refuge that the 1951 Refugee Convention anticipates. What followed was the digital dissemination of some of the most violent and racial and radical material known to our age, propaganda supporting the so-called Islamic State. Barach, now 29, has been sentenced to 45 months in prison by Bristol Crown Court for 5 offences relating to the online distribution of terrorist publications and 1 count of supporting a proscribed organisation. Judge Martin Picton, with due gravitas, described his actions as striking at the very heart of our democratic society. Glorifying Osama bin Laden, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, and jihadist martyrdom is not merely offensive, it's a legal and moral abomination. It's the weaponization of ideology in the virtual realm, designed, whether with intent or recklessness, to stir the unstable into acts of carnage. It's not a victimless crime. It seeds violence and silence. Yet this case touches more than just terrorism. It brushes the frayed edges of our immigration and asylum system. Barach entered the UK according to Suella Braverman's Nationality and Borders Act and Illegal Migration Act. He entered illegally. According to the British law as it now stands, not according to the international law based on the 1951 Refugee Convention. But he was not cast into the wilderness. He was sheltered, given food and a roof, and the rights enshrined in our laws pending his asylum claim. The paradox is stark. In the very moment he pleaded for protection, he promoted the destruction of the hand that offered it. Now, before we rush to reduce this to a cautionary tale of asylum gone wrong, let's recall, he is the exception, not the rule. The majority of asylum seekers are fleeing the very terror that Barach glorified. But exceptions, especially dangerous ones, matter, and here lies the problem. For there is, I dare say, an uncomfortable similarity between being locked in an asylum hotel with no timeline for resolution and being imprisoned. The key difference, Barach knows when he'll be released, and that he is inevitably going to be deported. Others in the system, some innocent, some traumatised, some waiting years, do not. It's an irony of the British state that we are more efficient at processing terrorist sentences than asylum claims, and that in itself is a form of cruelty and a failure of our system. Judge Picton stated that right-thinking people would find Barrach's actions utterly unacceptable, and quite so. But may I suggest that right-thinking people might also find it unacceptable that radicalised material continues to circulate with such ease on Instagram and Telegram, platforms which, despite endless promises, remain soft conduits for extremism. Where is the consequence for those platforms? Moreover, Barach's case reminds us that the internet is now a front line. As Detective Inspector Leon Williams rightly said, this sentence concludes a lengthy and complex investigation. But one wonders, should the burden fall so heavily on under-resourced counter-terrorist police to play an algorithmic whack-a-mole when tech giants profit from clicks? In the end, this is not simply about an asylum seeker turned terrorist sympathiser. It's a story about what happens when ideology, alienation and inertia collide, and the Home Office has got egg on its face. There are various lessons to learn. 2 are particularly significant. The first is that vigilance in vetting and monitoring extremist activity is essential, not xenophobic, not overreaching, just essential. Second, we must fix a system in which the asylum process itself becomes a waiting room for despair, exploitation, and in rare cases, radicalisation. Justice has been done in Barach's case, but as always, justice is reactive, not proactive. It arrives after the damage is done. So we have to ask ourselves, what might proactive justice look like? If we fail to ask that question, we will jail the Hakan Barachs of tomorrow while still leaving the gates open to their followers online, and the asylum seekers who truly need our help will continue to be trapped in limbo, punished not for what they've done, but for who came before them.